Oh, good morning and welcome everybody to this week's new episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL, and you can see this big old cheese smile because, man, this has been one heck of a weekend. Obviously, we have great information that happened on Friday. The CMA did what the CMA was expected to do, and that is follow the rule of law. They have sided with Microsoft in regards to confirming that there will not be any industry harm if this deal is approved, and it looks like it's going to be approved. The only thing on the table left, folks, is the fact that we're going to see what new cloud deals are coming in the form of Brad Smith talking about that last week. He said other deals are going to be signed. And listen, I mean, what can I say other than the fact that it's an exciting time for Xbox players. It's something that we have been excited to talk about since it was originally announced, but also, folks, something that we are hoping concludes before the release of Diablo 4, which everyone was playing this week over the full open beta was available. I saw lots of builds. I mean, the game looks so good. So again, Mrs. Boom and I are going to give it the old college effort once it drops into Game Pass. And I would imagine that it is going to drop into Game Pass if and when this deal is announced. I'm hoping before June. That would be pretty good. But ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the introductions. Web Dave, I see you're rocking a Double Barrel Gaming t-shirt. That looks mighty fine on you, fella. How you feeling? And thanks so much for supporting the channel.
I'm feeling great. Well, it's the least I can do for all the support you give us, man. So I love it. Looks really good, even on my fat butt. But yeah, it's awesome. Great material too. I love it. So I'm gonna be wearing this for a long time to come. Also, man, can't wait to get into these topics. It's gonna be big today. Everybody, stick around today because it's gonna get deep. I have a feeling we're really gonna get into it.
I mean, I'm expecting for us to have a good conversation. And it's weird. I'm looking at the chat and there's nobody here, but there are people here. I'm trying to find it on YouTube and I don't see it. I don't know if YouTube, Chad, let me know if this is live in YouTube or not, because for some reason I can't see it on my phone. I don't know what's going on, but it's typical YouTube. I don't think it's my software, but listen, let's get into the other introductions and we'll worry about that after. As long as you folks are here and you can hear so it is Smokey. Thanks so much, brother. Six Slayer, thank you for the confirmation. And of course, it might just be my crummy service here because we had a blackout. The whole neighborhood was dark for about 15 minutes. Pretty scary last night, but thankfully we got our power back and we're here talking Crazy Lou Gaming. What's going on, brother? All the way from the Dominican Republic, brother. How's the weather and how are you, more importantly?
Oh man, it's super hot. We're getting close to spring break, so that means beaches, lots of beer, lots of fun, and man, it's been an amazing weekend. And how the CMA woke up and chose the right side. Super happy today to join you guys on these hot topics because man, we're gonna get hot today and spicy.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of fun. There's a lot to get excited about. I think. Look, folks, this isn't. What we do here in Double Barrel Gaming, if you're finding the channel for the first time, this is not an us versus them. I have gone out of my way to call Microsoft, specifically Xbox, to the carpet when they make a mistake. I like playing it fair. When they mess up, I come out, and I'm not over and hypercritical, but I give it to them straight. And that is why we know for a fact, and I was told this personally, that they listen to the show because they like the consistency and the honesty that is, and the fact that we don't really curse here, and I'm proud. I'm proud of that. That's not something that I take for granted at all. Today we're going to have a conversation that surrounds the gaming media once again, who has wreaked its ugly head. We're going to talk about the Game Pass deal, finally, the dollar deal being stopped by Microsoft worldwide after 6 years. We're going to get into why Jim Ryan and Sony have not and will not comment on the newest information coming out of the CMA report that they have confirmed that there will not be any industry damage or harm, and some of the in between bylines, folks, that it really does set up Sony in a bad way. Sony has been dependent on Call of Duty for over almost a decade now. Remember, they got marketing rights back in 2013 or 2014 when they took over, and Microsoft, the leadership then wasn't doing a great job, and the people in charge were hoping to kill Xbox as a brand. And thankfully, Phil Spencer, who was there, was promoted in 2017, and we've seen, well, just look at what has happened in the last 5 years. But listen, Fuzzy Belvedere, brother, you should be excited. Here today, we're talking great Xbox news. Mm-hmm. Something in the Forza family is launching this week, and I know that puts a big Cheshire cat smile on your face, brother. How you feeling?
Oh, I'm doing great, and man, this weekend was filled with Diablo 4 demo and just a lot of gaming in general, and some good gaming news last week that rolls over into this week. But man, so excited to be here with you guys. A lot to say on some of these topics, so I can't wait to get into it. But man, thank you for everyone in the chat for joining us today, man. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, you know what? Let's get into some of the shenanigans, if you will, that has made its way to the interwebs. Now, we learned that Microsoft was in the process of stopping the dollar deal. And listen, 3 months for $1 is great, but at some point, you have to get back to it being regular price. And they've been running this for 6 years. Look, why do I bring this up, folks? Why do I bring this up? Because as per norm, whenever whenever there's positive Xbox news, it seems like the sharks of the gaming media start to circle as if it's a sinking ship. And instead of celebrating the value that is Xbox Game Pass, and folks, listen, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I think that it's not spoken about enough. Okay? Gaming is a hobby. Gaming is considered entertainment. And usually for people struggling, who are trying to figure out life as it is right now, and it's very difficult financially for some, the first thing to go is entertainment. And that's sad, because I've told you my personal stories. When I'm having a tough go at it, and sometimes I do, I just put the headphones on and I play my favorite game. And I use Hogwarts, for instance. Sometimes I just want to fly around on my broom and look at Hogwarts and just fight a spider or fight a couple of bad wizards or do a mission. And you know what? The world's a better place. Well, Xbox Game Pass offers that and a bag of chips. And at $15 a month, you get over 500 titles, some of which are going to be the biggest games released in 2023. Starfield, Redfall, Motorsport, potentially Hellblade. Diablo might be in there. There's gonna be tons and tons and tons of games in there. But take him at First Adopter on Twitter. Now if you don't know who he is, he's a senior writer at Barron's. He worked prior as a tech columnist at Bloomberg and CNBC and buy side, and I wonder why he's not working there anymore. Well, as expected, he's out there throwing shade at Xbox, and he wrote this morning on Twitter. He posted his article at InsiderGaming.com, where Xbox Game Pass dollar deal removed globally, and he says in very very simple factor that didn't take long. Now, I mean, what's long, folks? Is long 10 years? Is long 30 years? Is long a year? I don't know. I guess it varies to person, but I think 6 years offering $1 deal to get people into your service is a pretty good run. So I wrote to him and I simply said, hey, first adopter, I'm curious. When has PlayStation ran a deal for PlayStation Now, PlayStation Plus, or any of their PSN services? They haven't. Yet the $1 deal ending after 6 years is an issue. You sound more like a 5-year-old than a professional journalist. Come on, man. Be better. Now, I bring that up because, well, I like bringing the receipts, as the kids like to say. And you know who didn't report on what I'm about to read to you? Ty Kim didn't report on this. And I have a story pulled up from VGC. Now, again, one of my favorite places to get news. I love them over there. They occasionally they kind of flop. We all do. But for the most part, I still almost every day, go to their site and look at their stuff because I do like what they're doing over there. Well, I pulled a report, folks, from April 27th of 2022, April of last year, almost a year. It was written and posted by Tom Ivan. I like Tom a lot over there. He does right, and he's up to date with his stuff. You know what's really, really, really interesting to take Kim's report, and I'm assuming, folks, you're going to start seeing the hit pieces continue to come out because this deal is going to get done. And anyone that is a Sony loyalist is going to, they're gonna pile on the rabbit, so to speak. Well, what I have in front of me, folks, is a report that Sony has reportedly blocked PlayStation Plus and PS Now subscription stacking. Wow, does that seem anti-consumer to you? Meaning that if you could get PlayStation Plus for a year for, I don't know, $33. Like maybe you go to cdkeys.com or something and you buy 3 of them and you're like, you know what? PlayStation Plus is about to raise their prices. I'm going to lock in 3 years so I don't have to worry about it. Well, if that was Xbox, they go ahead and let you stack up 36 months worth, 3 years worth of Game Pass Ultimate. No problem. Lock it up. Not Sony, though. But you know who didn't write a story about Sony's anti-consumer behavior? Take him. He did not. But today he found it, the power of the journal of journalism at its finest to get out there and talk about how this $1 deal is being taken away is a bad thing. Folks, let me tell you something right now. At any given drop of a hat, if you're savvy, if you're even remotely savvy, you can go find the 3 months for Game Pass, which is $45 for $33 pretty much anywhere. If you really, really want to get it for $30, $33, $35, you can go out there and you can find it. You know what Microsoft does? They let you put your code in, you're good. You buy 4 of them, and you put your 4 codes in, you're good. Up to 3 years stackable, but not Sony. Dave, I want to talk about it. And this is not a pile on the rabbit kind of situation. He's entitled to his opinion, but he's still a knucklehead. I'm sorry. You got to call the media out. I think he does me anyway, and he does a lot of people a service when you start to see these journalists come out here and they start writing these ridiculous. They expose themselves as being posers, not real journalists, because journalistic integrity is actually a thing. He lacks it tenfold. Let's talk about it, brother.
Well, his perspective, as to like, why would he do such a thing? Because he's trying to get clicks. He's trying to get people to view his content, because right now Sony's the market leader. There are more people that own Sony PlayStation than own an Xbox. Facts. You just can't deny that.
Mm-hmm.
But so right now he's trying to cater to his audience, is what he thinks. But it's not really, it's disingenuous, because, like you said, the deal's been on for 6 years that they've been able to do that. And they're changing it now because I believe, from what the rumors are, that there's going to be some kind of announcements maybe this week, or as soon as maybe the month turns, that we're going to get some kind of, hopefully it'll be something to do with the family plan, or maybe this ads supported plan, that they might tie all these things together, and they don't really need quote unquote the dollar deal. There's also, rumor that they've been working on trying to get rid of the gold, games with gold level, in ways to do that, to make it more cohesive to Game Pass, and to make it like here's a simple level of tiers for Game Pass. And I mean, my son, I love him to death, but he's been known to, ooh, when can I get $1? Let his thing run out, and he'll be like, ooh, $1, I can fire up again, and he'll do that, get a month or so of Game Pass for $1. But he is on a budget, so and if they made it available to do that, then I don't see a problem with that. And like you said, they do have a restriction of 3 years, so that's pretty fair, to do. I'm waiting on the Game Pass family plan to come out, but I kind of had to kick my account down the road another 3 months, 4 months, because if you have it set up for, if it's auto pay, then it gives you a free month for doing that. So that hopefully they'll make the announcement of the family plan. Then I'm going to encompass my son, my daughter, my wife, everybody into one plan, and that'll be to us the best benefit. But they haven't made that announcement yet in the US, so I'm still kind of waiting. But my plan was actually getting ready to run out at the end of this month. So I went ahead and like I said, kick the can down by just buying 3 months, because I figured, it's worth it, because I don't want to lose out. I don't want to miss out on those great content coming. There's some big stuff coming real soon, like this week. So it's crazy. Love it. But yeah, I think his his article, I mean, I agree with you 100%. It's definitely something that he's just being clickbaity, as far as I can tell. That it's just it's not a real genuine type article. I mean, if that's his standard for article, why didn't he go into deeper depth and talk about what you said? If you're going to bring out this as like, what Microsoft is, removing this dollar deal, then maybe the flip is like, remember when Sony did this, where they wouldn't let you stack any plans at all. So it's just, it is what it is, but it definitely is not something that there really needed to be, this big article, like it's, like, oh no, the world's coming to an end, Microsoft is, and then there were people that were some fanboys that were retweeting his article, his post, and then including the CMA and all this stuff on it, like, oh yeah, they're going to change their mind because of this. Sorry, it's just silliness, what it is.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, because like I explained, I did pull the story from VGC, and they did have an update to it where Sony has confirmed that it has in fact disabled PlayStation subscription extensions ahead of its service revamp, which you still can't stack, at least as far as I know. And look, it's their response to everyone's outrage was due to the upcoming changes in PlayStation Plus subscriptions. Currently, PS Plus stacking is not available, as we remove the ability to do that. Now, this was a story. It's an old story. It's over a year old, or it's almost a year old. I didn't see many of the media covering that, to be quite honest with you. So when I see a story like this from Tae Kim, I'm disappointed, because for every horrible move that Sony does, it's like everyone puts on the blinders, the horse blinders, and they just go. The anytime there is a suggestion of the fact that there might be questionable, and I actually don't think this is questionable news, Crazy Lou Gaming. I think this is business. I think that you can only offer a discount for so long. At some point, the program has to stop. I don't know personally what you think, because we're going to get that information now. Do you think that 6 years of the dollar deal being worldwide is enough?
Yes, I think that's enough. I mean, I'm gonna say something though. It's when these services come out. For example, let's talk a little bit about Netflix, right? Netflix used to give you a free month, wasn't it? And then started charging. Spotify used to do the same thing. Disney Plus has their thing. I mean, all these services that come out, they come out with a promotion thing, and that's a way to get you to jump to their service and test it. If you like it, you stay subscribed. If you don't like it, you just go ahead, and all you did was just lose your free month, and that's about it. But 6 years, that's a long time. And hey, I think that it's been enough. And the funny thing is that what you're saying is how the media wants to make it like it's a bad news. Like, yeah, it's not good. It's not that, like, oh, they're taking that away. Why? I mean, seriously, they've been flexible with us for a long time. $1 for Game Pass, that's amazing. Not only that, if you stack up what is it, 36 months of gold, and you paid that 1 month of Game Pass or whatever with that $1, you got 3 years of Game Pass. I mean, seriously, what else do you want what else do you want Microsoft to do? I mean, they've been giving you so many good options for you to sit down and enjoy this service. And if it's enough, yes, it's enough. I mean, it's been a long time. 6 years is a long time. So yeah, they got to switch around the strategy because hey, they got to start earning. They got to start figuring out a way how to earn that money back, with this Game Pass thing. Because yeah, we love it. We love that it's simple and we love that it's not that expensive. And still, even though the dollar is off, $15 a month is not expensive, especially for everything they are giving you. I mean, you got EA, you got what else? Maybe in the near future, probably get Ubisoft Plus added to it. Maybe for those $15. That's amazing. Not only that, you can play on your computer, you got the cloud, you got all that stuff. So again, that's an amazing price. And not only that, they keep putting great titles on it. They keep bringing up great titles. They keep refreshing. So yeah, I agree. They should take it away. It's time to take it away, and it's time to start charging regularly, or if not, come out with something new for people to go ahead, and say, okay, this is better. Like for example, the family plan, which we are all waiting for, which is also a good price, which is what, $5 for each person.
Up to 5 people at $5 a piece, which is
$5 a piece. That's
remarkable.
Remarkable.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I don't understand what the fight is, but yes, it's time to get that offer off and keep on going.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, folks, I every time I say the words Xbox Game Pass, I wish $1 would be somehow magically put into my bank account because I'd probably be a millionaire at this point. That's not, in fact, the case. I am a fan of Game Pass, and I keep that. Why I'm so transparent on social media and on the channel is because I want you to understand that the work that we do behind the scenes to get this show running for each one of the 5 shows that we do live per week is done with the ideology of honesty and integrity. Okay. When Microsoft closes the $70 billion deal, Mrs. Boomstick and I are not getting our own island in the Caymans. We're not getting a house paid for us. I'm happy because that is going to then enrich the already ridiculous amount of games that I get Xbox Game Pass. And I come at it from a personal level as a retiree. And I'm proud to be retired because some people don't get that. I'm very, very fortunate. My pension is great, but it has a ceiling. And Xbox Game Pass allows me to enjoy high quality games from indies made by one person to team of 2,000. And that's what we're talking about. Somebody want to say something?
I wanted to add something too. Okay.
Please.
How many games is Microsoft developing right now? Let's do quick math. How many games is Microsoft?
I want to say that it's got to be in the high 30s, maybe 40s.
Okay,
they have a lot of games in development.
Let's say 40, right? And let's times it by 70. That's the price they're charging. That's $2,800, guys. And if you divide that by 180, that's what Game Pass charges you ultimate a year. That's 15 years of Game Pass right there. Do the math. I mean, seriously. Look how much money you're going to be saving. If you buy all those games, that's 15 years of Game Pass worth right there. Not kidding you.
I got a better number for you. I'm gonna bring this question over because again, value is subjective, right? If your value might be less than mine, might be more than mine, and that's what's great about these shows. We can come out and have an adult conversation, Fuzzy, I have a number in front of me, and it's a staggering number. So I love numbers because, like I said, we can argue points of view. You can have a different opinion. You can enjoy a brand better than I do. That's I love that. I love that. That's why we podcast, folks.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't argue the numbers. Very hard to argue numbers because they're facts, folks. So I have numbers in front of me, and I do a lot of calculating and a lot of searching behind the scenes while I'm doing this live. So I pulled up, just for shits and giggles for the conversation, of the value of Xbox Game Pass in 2022, last year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so last year, Xbox Game Pass saw the addition of 220 new games worth $7,173. Okay, this was posted and confirmed on December 30th of 2022 as we closed out last year. Very, very hard to argue that it's $15 a month is not worth your time, or more importantly, your money. And the fact that the dollar deal is going away, of course I'm saddened by that, because some people want to start it. Maybe people are going to find the service for the first time, but that is where Xbox Game Pass friends and family are going to come in, because I have friends that I'm going to add to it that are not quote unquote diehard gamers, but I'm going to add them because, well, $5 a month, I'm not worried about it. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about this ridiculousness on how, instead of highlighting and writing a rah-rah article for Xbox Game Pass and its value and how Microsoft and Xbox do put the consumer first, to, well, the dollar deal is done, and, well, that was fast.
Well, I mean, it's kind of obvious. Take him as shown his favoritism for a particular brand, and in the famous words of Everborn Saga, charge them more. I mean, when it comes to some of those on the Twitter Spaces and such that champion the PlayStation brand, they have no problem paying more money. In fact, some of them have said they've been willing to pay more than $70 per game. Kudos to them, but for the rest of us that have common sense and like to stretch our dollar as far as it can, depending on whether you're working or retired, you want your money to basically work for you at some point. And the dollar deal going away, all right, that's fine. You know what? 6 years, that's plenty of time. And I look at it this way: if you didn't sign up at that point somewhere within that 6-year time for that dollar deal, shame on you. I mean, come on. Like, if you're going to have like even stores like for PC with Epic, where they give away games and you didn't at least sign up for a couple of free games, shame on you. That's your loss, not anyone else's at that point. But considering Microsoft still has other options, like before they even do the family plan, which I'm eagerly looking forward to here within as soon as they announce it here for the States, you still have Microsoft Rewards, which, I know PlayStation has their rewards program thing or whatever, but I think last time we looked at it, you have to spend $6,000 to get like $60 worth of stuff, or like it's some like ridiculous out of proportion type of thing. But with Microsoft Rewards, and that's what I've been using for like the past couple of years to just kind of pad my stack of years of Game Pass. It's like, oh, you could use searches on Bing, or do a quiz, or answer questions on a poll, or just do random searches. And now, given that they have that Bing AI out there, it's like, come on. Like, I used to be hardcore, use Google search only and Bing for my occasional points. But now with the Bing AI, Google's kind of gone on the wayside. And this is somebody that used to do SEO for aftermarket automotive company. So it goes to show you that Microsoft still has options if you're on a budget, or if you're looking to save a few bucks. And who isn't? I mean, to be honest, there are still options out there. But fingers crossed, we get announcement of this family plan here soon. Also, they'll probably figure out some sort of way, if Ubisoft is still around, fingers crossed they stay around for a while. Hopefully Ubisoft Plus makes it into the service, or, it's like a couple of buck add-on type of thing for like a vault system or something like that, for access to some of their legacy titles and such. But it always amazes me when, people that aren't necessarily fans of the brand want to point out, oh, well, that didn't do so well, or oh, that went way quickly. And it's like, but you're the same ones that used to use the whole dollar thing as look, Microsoft is desperate for customers and they still have that dollar thing. Well, they made it to 30 million customers, paying customers in a lot of cases. So that dollar thing, yeah, it gets you in the door, and then you realize you're saving $7,000 a year or however many grand, whether you're a casual gamer or a hardcore gamer, you're saving money annually in comparison. And sure, yeah, you don't keep your games, but other than like a handful of special games, how many people really go back to games that they've beat, especially like a one and done per se? Like most of your multiplayer games that haven't gone free to play that are in that service, yeah, I could see you totally wanting to revisit that game at some point. But then that's where Game Pass comes into play, where you get the discount on the game. So you subscribe to the service, you enjoy the game enough. Oh, they say a year later, we're pulling it from the service. You get it for like, pennies on the dollar in comparison. So it's just so much value. And yeah, I know we're not sponsored or this is not an ad or anything like that. Just me as a gamer that, wants my money to go as far as possible. I recommend subscribing for the service. Whether you missed out on the dollar deal or not, it's still well worth the value versus, spending $7,000 in games, which not too long before Game Pass. I mean, I wasn't spending $7,000 in a year, but I was spending a couple grand in a year, especially when you have two teenage boys and they like a few video games that they play for a week or two and then drop and never go back to again. So it's like, yeah,
that's boys for you.
This program. So, but
man, listen,
it's fun.
First of all, great points, and I'm glad you brought up the Ubisoft Plus because again, this is going to be a slight transition into the big story of the day. There was a rumor that popped up yesterday. Now I don't know, I don't know who the guy on Twitter is. I've never heard of him. Apparently, he's done leaks before. Ubisoft Plus, we know is coming. We just don't know when. A lot of us thought it was going to be announced during the digital event that Microsoft had a couple of about a month and a half ago. That didn't happen. And we know that it was announced last year, and we're still waiting. We know that what Ubisoft Plus is very similar to Xbox Game Pass in the sense where you pay a monthly fee, and I believe that the fee on PC where it's available right now is I think it's $15 a month. Someone please correct me if I'm wrong if it's a little bit more money. And you get all the games day and date, and you get all the DLC, which is awesome. Now the only thing we're waiting on obviously is when it's launching into the service, and we have had that list of 100 games coming when it does. That was the leaked list that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. But now the new rumor, folks, is it's coming in April. Now, April is a week away. We don't know when in April. I don't know if it's mid-April, end of April, start of April. But we know that that the service is coming to Xbox. Now, the question, folks, is whether or not it's going to go and become a part of Xbox Game Pass. Now that's the interesting. Now, I'm speaking for myself. I can't speak for you as a consumer. I'm a Ubisoft fan. I know they haven't done some great things. They certainly haven't treated their employees any better, and that's a really big problem. They're on the cusp, folks. Someone is going to swoop in and buy Ubisoft. There's no doubt about it. It's not going to be Sony because we know that they only have 5, and I say this with respect. I'm not trying to be facetious. Until the end of the fiscal year, which is next year, they only have $5 billion left to spend on acquisitions, and that's all of Sony. Sony Interactive Entertainment. That's not just locked down the PlayStation. That is across the board. They've made some heavy investments, one of which was the $3.6 billion investment into Bungie. And Sony PlayStation has bought a lot of smaller developers, like Haven, for instance, was I think a great get for them because Jade Raymond is an incredible leader. I think whatever she's working on is going to be fantastic. I cannot wait to play it. So it's not going to be Sony. A lot of people are saying it's Microsoft. Folks, I don't know if I'm Phil Spencer. I don't know if I ever want to do any kind of deal like this ever again because I'm sure that his grays are popping out because of this ABK deal. So, I mean, again, we're not going to really talk so much about that, as I just wanted to make, just like an announcement, that the rumor is that Ubisoft Plus is potentially going to happen in April. I can't wait for it to happen. Now, again, speaking for myself as a consumer, I'm hoping that like EA's Play, that is a part of the service. I don't know how that works out with dollars and cents. I know that Ubisoft had to cancel a lot of games. They had to close down a lot of studios. So they're hurting for money. I don't know if Microsoft comes in and drops a giant bag or a couple of bags over there to say, hey, listen, let's put it into the service for our customers at no extra cost for X amount of years, and then people will start paying, or they're going to allow it into Xbox and it's going to be a separate service, maybe the $15 a month. If you're a Ubisoft fan, as I am, who plays all the Assassin's Creeds and all the different games that they come out with, then it's worth it for me. It may not be worth it for you. I mean, they haven't really been releasing a lot of games, and we just heard that the next Assassin's Creed might be delayed along with their new racer. So I don't know what's going on at Ubisoft. So really, the value proposition of what they're offering is going to be entirely up to you. I hope that it's in the service. But I do want to quickly transition over to a poll that was put out by our very good brother and friend, John Wolf. And we're gonna segue into the big story about how SIE, Sony Interactive Entertainment, PlayStation, and Jim Ryan have issued a no comment in regards to the CMA's admission that there's not going to come any harm to the gaming industry, specifically in console, where right now PlayStation reigns supreme. And he put out a poll this morning. It has about 200 people that clicked on it. And I'm going to retweet it because I think people should answer the question. He simply asked, is Sony going to sign the deal this week? And I want to get the chat involved in this because for me personally, I answered a big, gigantic capital NO. And I'll explain why. Sony's ridiculous arrogance is why they're not going to sign the deal. If they do, they're going to look weak at investors. Their stock was tumbling on Friday. I don't know if it continued to tumble or it had made a comeback. I haven't checked the market as of this morning. We know that Microsoft's stock went up. We know that ABK's stock went up. We know that investment from that community is more people are looking to buy into it because the deal is going to go through. When is the deal going to go through? Is it April? Is it May? Is it June? What's going on with the FTC is a complete joke. There's a bill on the floor right now that was written and published by Senator Warren, which is the most ridiculous thing I've ever read in my entire life. She does not want to allow for any deals over $5 billion, which is why. Sounds more like a dictatorship than a democracy, in my opinion. But we're not going to go there, folks. I hate politics. It's filthy. Well, I do want to ask the question, folks. I'm throwing this out there to the chat. Let us know in the chat. Let's get involved here. How do you think this is going to play out this week? Does Sony? Because I'm telling you right now, Sony on Friday when this information came out, and again, I don't know if they were notified before. They were sent scrambling. This was one of those situations where papers are flying up and people are running back and forth because they don't know what to do with themselves. Sony banked big on the CMA blocking this deal. There were days, I said this in the private in the green room before we went live. There were days I got up and I read something from the CMA and I'm like, man, this is going to get blocked because Sony has the CMA in their pocket. Honestly, I said it from the beginning and I don't take it back. If this deal would have went any way other than it's going, there would have been collusion or corruption because the stats just, you can't argue the stats. I'm gonna roll reverse it. I'm gonna go first to Fuzzy on here. Fuzzy, the hot take question of the day: does Sony sign the deal this week? And why do you think that? Yes or no?
I'm going to say no, and I think it has to do kind of like what you're saying. It's their pride at this point. if anything, in the history of Sony, one thing that has always stood out has been their pride. Even when they're clearly in the wrong or something traumatic has happened, like the hack in, what was that, 2012, 2011 or something like that.
Yeah, it was awful.
It took them forever to respond. And then, and only then, did they finally apologize. So their pride is not going to allow them to sign that deal. They would just as soon let Microsoft not put it on their platform or deny Microsoft being able to put it on their platform, just to, I guess, send a message that they're not bending the knee in any way, shape, or form. I don't think that would be wise. I don't know if they're going to go quite that far to block it being on their platform, because that would be kind of like, shooting yourself in the foot. But them signing a deal, nah, I don't think they do it. If there is a deal at any point, it may be after the fact. Once the deal is closed, they go into some sort of contractual thing. But prior to that, whatever, Brad Smith is walking around with in his pocket or his briefcase, yeah, they ain't touching that. So pride is a big issue, I think, for them in this regard. But we'll see. I just hope in the grand scheme of things, cooler heads prevail on Sony's side, and they at least either come to the table or they have like the best ultimate, plan B in the background where they can go ahead and announce SOCOM being ready to release or something. I
hope
that.
so, dude. Listen, folks, I'm a Sony fan. Okay, let me rephrase it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a PlayStation fan, but I hate Sony.
Yeah.
I do. I'm pulling a mag here. He says it all the time. And that guy's Mr. Platinum. I hate their business practices, but I'm waiting for the announcement of a SOCOM. How dope would that be, folks? That a deal like and again, it makes you wonder, why did it take a $70 billion deal for Sony to come bring a new SOCOM? Because they got lazy.
Yeah, they got dependent on something that they didn't have to expend a lot of resources on. Basically, it was like easy income. Not the point of direct, reflection on Apple, but to some extent, it's kind of like Apple with their store and with gaming in general. They don't need a console. I mean, everybody has one. Well, not everybody, but almost everybody has one of their phones in their pocket or in their household, and all they got to do is subscribe to Apple Arcade, and they make money. It's like that old saying. It's like, we have a plan, and then equals money or whatever. And it's like they just figured out how to do it without really getting their hands dirty. And Sony was kind of looking at that same thing with Call of Duty. They just decided, hey, it's easier for us to rely on that than to put a studio together that can consistently release content that the fans will enjoy. But I have some suggestions for Sony. I don't really want to give them to them because they're a lot of the studios that are within their budget. I enjoy their games currently being multi-plat, and I know Sony would probably pursue not making those multi-plat. But yeah, they definitely need to work on a SOCOM or something in that range, where something different than Call of Duty, something a little bit different than what's out there now, to at least have that draw. So that way, when you're tired of playing Call of Duty for the night, you can switch over to their game and then back and forth, as time goes on. But yeah, they need to do something as far as first-person shooter or even third-person shooter or something to kind of just keep them in that loop where it's something that they can hold the chest and, draw more, fans in for that genre into their platform if they're not already there, or at least maintain the ones that are there.
Well, I mean, listen, obviously they have leaned on the success of Call of Duty. I mean, they even said it to help fund first party game development, which is, wow. I mean, that's pretty crazy. Like, you would depend on third party profits instead of your own first party games. It's a bit shocking to me. SOCOM, when that was announced, would be the talk of the town, because a lot of people have been waiting for a new SOCOM. It by all rights, if it's done correctly, it could draw in a ton of people that might have been disenchanted with the fact that Call of Duty is now owned by Xbox, because that's probably going to happen. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think sales are going to be hurt on Call of Duty. If you want to stay on PlayStation, I think you're just going to buy the game like you've always done, because nothing is going to change.
Mhm.
But it's a shame that we don't have a SOCOM. It's a shame that we don't have a factions for that matter. That's another one that's a bit of a conundrum. Talk about that for a hot second. Would that be a big deal or a big announcement?
I think it would, and I've been in like various like Twitter chats and things like that. Like factions, I think could be huge for them in the sense that it was probably the most appealing multiplayer first party thing that they had going on in a very long time. When it came to the original, Last of Us. I mean, the ones for like the Uncharted series for like Uncharted 4 was pretty decent, but I don't think it had the staying power that the factions did. But having something like that now, especially with the popularity of the show, and they're going to go into another season, and the remake or the re-release of the game and so forth, I think those are all the perfect storm to really lean into factions. And one of the things I was talking to some people in chat about was that maybe they could do an episodic side story stuff. So you have the multiplayer. I wish they would make it free to play. I doubt they'll make it free to play. They'll probably charge you 70 and whatnot. But anyway, do a episodic thing every 3 to 4 months if you can, and have that go along with the updated seasons. And in doing so, that episodic stuff, don't charge for it. Make it included with your, PS Plus Extra or PS Plus
as an
Premium.
advantage, as a bonus. That's a great idea, dude.
Yeah.
I love it. Love it.
And I think, one, that helps draw people to your service, and two, that keeps people engaged in that game. So I know there's smarter people at Sony as far as when it comes to game design and all that stuff, but that's just my 2 cents on something that they could do that's a little bit different, that would probably be huge for their end, where the Sony diehard wouldn't necessarily miss Call of Duty if they choose to boycott or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I'm just hoping they get back to like what we used to call weird Sony, or just more creative Sony again, and lean on some of their own IPs in doing so.
I agree. Fuzzy, crispy. Wow, I'm out of sorts today. Crazy Lou Gaming. This is what happens when I'm trying to read and do a podcast at the same time, because I want the stats in front of me. Crazy Lou Gaming. Let's get your hot take on this. Fuzzy Belvedere has some really, really interesting things to say about it. Where do you fall? Do you think that there is a certain pride type of a situation going on? Because Sony, is a Japanese-based company, and we know the Japanese people, we love them, very prideful in their work. Very, very prideful, and that's what you got to love that about them, right? And when it comes to business, they're very much they like crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's, and they don't like dishonor. And we also know that something that was being banked on as much as it was would be considered a big, like. They don't like to bend the knee, so to speak. I don't know what happens to Jim Ryan after this. A lot of people, I was in the camp, they're going to give him a raise because he did what you would expect a president and CEO of PlayStation to do. He was trying to get this deal blocked because he wants his investors to have confidence in him as a leader. And he wasn't going to take no for an answer. So he did everything. He lobbied here, there, and everywhere. And we know that he has a significant amount of influence, if you will, in the UK, in the EU. And I'm happy to say that the rule of law, the facts are what's being used for the CMA and the EU's decision. Now, the FTC, well, that's a horse of another color, and we'll cross that bridge on this show and many other of my shows, once we get there. But obviously, yes, he is the CEO and president here. But ultimately, Sony Japan is going to have the final say on this. Do you think that they signed the deal, or do you think they don't say anything? Because right now we know that they haven't said anything, and we're going to get into that in the back end of this. Are they signing this deal this week?
It depends. It depends, because here's the thing, though. At the end of the day, you can be very prideful and be the way you are, but hey, money is money. So
Business is business.
Business is business. That's the truth. And I'm gonna say something. They probably right now are sitting and looking at this. They open a book and said, okay, if we don't sign, how much will we lose? How much is gonna happen? Or they're trying to sit down and think on how they're gonna negotiate with Microsoft. Probably. I'm just saying it depends, because again, it all depends. By this week, they're not gonna sign, because they got a lot of stuff to sit down and analyze. They got a lot of numbers to look at. They got a lot of things to say. Okay, hey, Microsoft, this and this and that, or just say, hey, let's just not sign this, because at the end of the day, if they were getting funded by Call of Duty to make their games, right? I mean, that's what's said out there. I mean, they got to sit down and look at those numbers before they make any decision, because hey, if they say no, then okay, I understand, because it probably won't be losing as much, But if they say, hey, we're funding our first party titles with this, then they are making a buckload of money. They're making a lot of money. And yeah, they got to be right now sitting down, analyzing, looking through those books, looking through those numbers to see. And also, I bet you they're looking at that contract that Microsoft has given them. I bet you they're looking at it right now, reading through it and analyzing word by word to see if it's worth it for them or not, or to start down and negotiate. So yeah, it all depends. But by this week, they got a lot of stuff to sit down and analyze, because this hit them really, really hard. I mean, they were not expecting this hit. This was a big hit this weekend and really shrunk them down to size right there. It was a major bust for them right there.
Yeah, it's. I mean, listen, I don't know if they signed the deal. I still think that they're not going to sign the deal. And this isn't the same ideology as Gabe Newell and Steam. Like when asked and pressed by the investigation into the ABK merger, they told regulators, we don't need a deal. Microsoft always does what Microsoft said they're going to do. And if they say they're going to put it onto Steam, it's going to go onto Steam. Now, obviously, Gabe Newell didn't always talk highly of Microsoft. He worked for them many, many years ago, and he didn't always have a good relationship with them. And that was because of some of the past leadership. Well, things have changed significantly under Satya Nadella for Microsoft, and specifically for Xbox under the leadership of Phil Spencer. I don't know if they need to sign the contract. But there is some stuff that, if you, like I said, read of what the CMA says. Microsoft is no longer backed into a corner here, folks. They have all the power. The powerless one is PlayStation. So, obviously, I will say this. Maybe this is being a little bit fanboy. I don't know. And, if I am, please, by all means, call me out, call me to the carpet. I'll answer. If I'm Microsoft, we heard that one of the original deals was 10 years, parity, no exclusive content anywhere. Meaning that if you play on Xbox, you're going to get the same content as you get PlayStation, Nintendo, Steam, wherever, right? And they were even offering it into PlayStation Plus. This is what I would do for the PlayStation Plus. No, that's taken off. We don't have to do that. We're not doing that. We're not giving you that, because we want people to subscribe to Xbox Game Pass. Now, even if it was offered into PlayStation Plus Premium, which again I do want to bring to the table, Sony PlayStation doesn't even put their own first party games day and date into the platform. Why should Microsoft put Call of Duty day and date into their platform unless they're paying them millions of dollars, 700 million, 800 million per year? They would have to pay up, because we know that PlayStation was the number one place for Call of Duty last year. The numbers don't lie, folks. They made a ton of money. So if I'm going to put my game that I own into your system and onto your platform, and I'm trying to sell Game Pass, well, in order to make up the people that are not going to join Game Pass, you're going to have to pay through the nose. So if that's the case, I don't offer it to them. But Dave, I want to get your, Dave, if you don't know Web Dave, he's in the quote unquote business of banking. So he's our numbers guy, if you will. Dave, on a pure numbers basis,
Yep.
Does Sony sign the deal this week?
Well, as someone actually noted in the chat, they really don't have to come to the table to sign a deal until 2024. They have a deal in place right now till 2024 that Microsoft will honor for sure. In that amount of time, I mean, they could just go ahead and sign. It is possible for sure. They want to try and get this behind them and move on, but I think they want to be the thorn in the side as long as they can.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's some other things that were kind of, I guess it was something that was released. It was redacted last week. That was released. Some of the things that Sony was saying, but there was like some side notes at the bottom. They didn't redact by mistake. CMA talking about the possibility of some of the games that Microsoft will own possibly being worked on for their VR. So maybe they try and get what they can out of this deal to maybe get them to make them a quote unquote maybe a Call of Duty version VR experience for their system to help build up and promote their VR. That's always a possibility. I'm saying it's going to happen, but I mean, I know was it they're actually there's a VR mode right now for Elder Scrolls. So that's definitely a possibility that something like that could be done for them. But yeah, is it going to get signed? Straight up question. I mean, at some point they probably will. If they don't sign, will that mean that it won't be on PlayStation? No, unless PlayStation actually goes in and tries to stop it, which they wouldn't because they make a lot of money off of it. So you can technically they can kind of ride the current deal out until 2024, and then kind of see what happens. But if they stay away from the table too long, if things really looking good for Microsoft in those, that time limit, I guess that time zone, I guess, then, then Microsoft, doesn't necessarily have to continue to offer, the 10-year deal. They may, cut it down to, 5-year, 2-year, come talk to us every year now. We really don't know at this point.
Yeah.
But it's looking really good. So.
I like what you put out there. If they wait too long, and Microsoft, this is one of those Lando Calrissian, Darth Vader situations where they froze Han. They're like, be thankful I don't change the deal any further.
Yeah.
I mean, if everyone is signing deals, and I am going to say this, what is his name? Something Shaw X on he's a head of Microsoft Communications. I'll get him in a hot second. And he had said something on Friday morning, which we politely mentioned, that hey, journalists, sorry if you've been overly busy covering Microsoft the last couple of weeks in regards to the ABK deal. More information will be coming this week. Sorry. Which means that we're expecting some big news this week. We don't know what that news is going to be. I would openly suggest that based on what Brad Smith, president of Microsoft, said, that in regards to the cloud situation, because again, for the EU Commission and the CMA, the only concerns for their investigation in regards to the ABK merger is cloud. And Microsoft has basically said Call of Duty can go to any cloud service that has the ability to play the game. We know that they signed 10-year deals with NVIDIA. That was huge. Boosteroid was another one. And Brad Smith himself said that there are other deals that they're currently working on right now that will be announced shortly. So I would imagine that once that's done on April 26th, the CMA will, of course, levy their decision to approve the deal. We know that the EU Commission is in May. We don't know what's going to happen with the FTC now. I think that the more that this continues forward, the administrative judge overseeing the FTC case right now, I don't think it gets past there. I think he throws it out. And I think that they're going to, I think actually they said they would close over the FTC anyway. And I think that the gamers lawsuit that was thrown out on Friday, pretty much that used all of the basis for the FTC's case for their own, was laughed out of court. That just goes to show you. But look, I want to keep this moving along, but I do want to make a quick announcement. Post Up, who, if you don't know who he is and you're not following him, shame on you, because he is one of the people I go to, and his knowledge in regards to what's been going with the ABK deal is staggeringly fantastic. Well, he has just confirmed, folks, that he'll be joining us on Wednesday evenings, primetime gaming. While I was doing this show, I've been back and forth with him in DMs, and he has confirmed he is going to join us. And specifically what we're going to talk about is there was a story that dropped this morning from the EU Commission where they went back and they're starting to rewrite some of the changes into their laws. Sony might actually be investigated for some anti-consumer type practices that we know that they have conducted for years. And they went and they changed some things to potentially, maybe all of this screaming and crying and kicking that Sony has done to talk about we're the victims. You know, remember I told you they could walk in the court with the eye patch and the wrapped head and the crutch, and they're saying that's the guy that beat me up and they're the bully. I think I said it before and I'll say it again. I think that they might have opened Pandora's box, and they might be in a bit of trouble. But I do want to just shift over to what we learned. Sony Interactive Entertainment, and Jim Ryan and PlayStation have issued a no comment. And this comes the way of MLex, who reached out to them. And folks, guess what? They're not speaking about it, which is, I'm not surprised, but at some point, you can't put your head in the sand. You gotta talk about this. And I'm interested to get the panel's opinion on this. This is pretty interesting. Obviously, and Dave, I'm gonna go to you first. We just talked about whether or not they're going to sign the deal. Everyone has, ranges of opinions. Mm-hmm. But Sony was out there in communications trying to throw Microsoft under the bus day after day after day after day. And when they learned, folks, that the CMA has sided with Microsoft, all communications have stopped. Pretty interesting stuff here. And I'm interested to get your opinion on this, brother. And in fact, you know what? Let me read the actual statement.
Okay.
MLex has contacted Sony to get a statement with the CMA's positive response to today's purchase of the Activision and the Activision Blizzard King scenario. And Sony has responded. They have responded, folks. Sony refuses to make any kind of statement on the subject. That's pretty crazy. That's kind of like a spoiled brat. You're stomping your feet and you're crossing your arms and you're going to hold your breath until you turn blue. Now, I think Jim Ryan was on the phone with Phil Spencer and Microsoft. Personally, I would have let it go to the machine, and I'll call you back when I can. I wouldn't have answered right away. I'd be like, let it ring. I'll get back to you. Leave a message. I'm in the midst of my victory lap, in a little text bubble. I'll call you back in a few, Jim. Are you surprised by this, Dave?
Well, in a way, yes, because they've been so outspoken up to now. But it's a possibility that they've probably gone radio silent, as it were, due to maybe somebody from Sony legal department saying, "Look, we need to take a step back." Because if they didn't see anything in there that merited their console excuse, and then now there's the FTC, or excuse me, I shouldn't say that the JFTC is being asked by several congresswomen to look into the Japanese trade organization, let them know, say, look, some of these practices that you're doing in your country, really benefit to a offset degree, the gaming market in Japan compared to any American, game companies trying to get a foothold or even a foot in the door really into the Japanese market. That needs to be looked at, and they stepped away from the table saying that they will look into this and get back to them. So that is huge. And with that, whether it's somebody in Japan getting all the Sony saying, dude, you guys really need to let's calm this down just a little bit, or let's reevaluate and figure out what our stance is going to be going forward, which is probably most likely. What they're doing is, if so far this hasn't seemed to work, which we thought was going to, but then when they recalculated the numbers, they're like, oh, we don't really see a problem with that part. Then maybe now Sony is going to take a week or so to, reformulate, replan, regroup, what's still the better way to attack. Because, until the deal is done, it's not done. So it's getting closer, that is for sure. And it's looking positive, that's for sure. But it's still not done. And until it is done, ink is signed, approvals go forward. Till Phil has his big round table, with everybody from ABK, because we know that's coming. We know they've already got plans for that. Where they sit there and they do the big sit down interview with Phil, maybe even Satya Nadella may even join him for this one. You never know. But when that happens, then things will be, done and behind us. But until that date happens, Sony is still going to continue to work their advantage, as they feel like they should, because they're the market leader and they want to do everything they can to lessen the effect of market loss. So that may not be, right away if the deal gets done tomorrow, they are not going to be not number one. They are still going to be the number one.
Oh, it's going to take years, dude. It's going to take again. Look, I understand there are going to be some people in the chat that hate when I say this. You got to tip your cap to Sony because they make great games. They may not be your type of games. They're certainly my type of games. I don't like their business practices, sure. I don't like how they nickel and dime us with upgrades that we have to pay $10 for when you get it free on the Xbox. I don't like the fact that they charge for crossplay. There's a lot of things I don't like about what Sony does, which is why I don't like Sony. But I like PlayStation because they make those first-person experiences that I enjoy. I enjoy those games. If you don't, I hear you. But Microsoft isn't going to. It's not going to, turn a switch. At 3 p.m. tomorrow, Xbox number one. It's just not going to happen like that. They still have to deliver on first-party games, which they're going to do this year. We've seen it. Hellblade, the demo, it's a demo. That game is going to be fire. And I've heard some things behind the scenes that have it, giving God of War a run for its money. And I hope that in fact is true. Fable is going to be amazing. Avowed is going to be using Unreal Engine 5, and we know what that can do. This year we have major first-party games coming out, so they still have to deliver before that happens. And when you can put Call of Duty on the box of your whatever Xbox is still going to be around, whether it's the X and the S or the upgraded version, or their streaming box that's coming out potentially next year, when you can turn around and put Call of Duty on these things and have high-powered, high-caliber first-party games, that's when you're going to start to see the market shift. That's when you're going to start to see Sony kind of sliding a little bit, because I don't know if Sony can keep up the pace of what Xbox has, has in the oven. I don't think that they can. And I pulled a story, folks. I saw it for myself. Sony has said in the CMA documents that Call of Duty is incredibly important to them, and that they literally use the profits to fund their first party development. If that's the case, then they're doing it wrong. I'm gonna be honest with you, and that's how you know they got lazy. Let's bring Fuzzy Belvedere into the conversation. Fuzzy, I want to get your hot take on this. Now, there is going to come a point where, contracts have time limits.
Yeah.
Right. You could offer something today that makes sense to your business. Like Microsoft says, hey, listen, we're going to give you, before the CMA situation, we're willing to give you the shirt off our back. We're going to give you 10 years. We're going to give you parity. We're not going to pull a Sony and do the crappy, modes held off for a year that Sony is notorious for. Everyone's going to get the content. We just want people playing the game because they're going to make money. Right. But at some point, something like we're willing to put it into PlayStation Plus, well, then the CMA decision comes. And if I'm Microsoft, if I'm Phil Spencer, that's the first thing that gets removed. Not to be a jerk, but that's business. You're trying to get people to subscribe to Xbox Game Pass. And in order to do that, you need to have something tasty in this buffet of games. And what's more tastier for some than Call of Duty? Yeah. Well, wait a second. PlayStation, you can buy it. Spend your $76.43 in here in New York. Go ahead. Go buy the game. In fact, buy the $100 edition. We're making money. It's great. But if you're Microsoft, contracts and they change on the daily. Mm-hmm. My question to you, and before I get to you, brother, I'm so sorry about the super chats. I'm so entrenched in what's going on. I gotta get to them before we get on out of here. Drawn TJ dropped several $5 super chats, and the first one of the day, he says, "Good morning, Boom and panel. I think Diablo 4 will be in Game Pass day one. If the deal is done, yes, it will be. It would be pretty awesome. I would love to see the deal. See how I envision this, Drawn TJ. Is we know that E3 is going to be big for pretty much everyone. I'm expecting Sony's E3 to be like the year of dreams. That particular E3 where everyone was just falling over themselves, fainting in their chairs. I expect Sony to deliver that kind of an E3. But I also expect Microsoft to have a lot that they're going to show off. And I think that if I'm in the communications business for Microsoft, and I can get this deal done, the Diablo 4 is scheduled to release on the 6th, a week before E3, right? If I'm working in communications, I'm definitely trying to put a plan together where you announce that the deal is done right before E3. You want that kind of monster momentum. Everyone's talking about Xbox. Everyone's talking about Call of Duty. Everyone's talking about Activision because now it's first party. And if you can line that up with, we just closed the deal, and the first game, one of the most anticipated game, if you go look on social media. See, again, it didn't hit for me and Mrs. Boom, who really do like Diablo-style games, but everyone is like, oh my God, it's my game of the year just based on the beta. If you can turn around and merge the signing of the deal officially, and then you add that Diablo 4 is Xbox Game Pass day one before E3, wow. Just wow. So that's a good idea, brother. Jordan TJ drops an additional $5 super chat and says, Mav thinks Ubisoft Plus might be added to Game Pass. I mean, it's possible. I mean, Ubisoft is in a bit of a pickle financially, and they don't have a lot of games releasing. They've announced a lot of stuff, but they also have canceled a lot of stuff. So if Microsoft can drop a bag and try and entice them to take this bag and offer an even more, I mean, could you just imagine that? Ubisoft Plus a part of Game Pass? I mean, that's a rip off your clothes and streak down the painted green kind of a situation.
Boom.
Hey, listen, I mean, I'm going to jail, folks, but it was for a good reason.
Hey, Boom, I do want to interrupt you real quick.
Sure, go ahead.
Somebody in the chat was called out because we were talking about about being at E3. Sony and Microsoft aren't going to have booths at E3
on the floor, on the show floor. They're not, but they're going to have their own things.
Across the street for Sony, and then of course there'll be all kinds of stuff that'll be dropping, maybe even a state of play right around E3. So that's what Boom means when he's talking about at E3. It's the E3 time of season is what that information is going to be dropped. So
yeah, they've already said they're not going to be involved with actually on the show floor, because normally the way it works, at least it has been the last couple of years, is Microsoft has their own thing, right? They have their show. Right, they have their FanFest event, which is the next day, but on the show floor of E3, they've always had a booth. That's not going to happen this year. I don't know why that is. I'm not sitting in on the business meetings. Maybe it doesn't make financial sense. I don't know what to tell you, but they're going to have a show that's been confirmed, and right after that show is going to be the Bethesda Developer Direct. So they're going to be there. It's just not going to be part of E3 in the sense where they're on the show floor. So I'm glad you cleared that up. Brett Bingham, generous friend of the program, drops a $5 super chat and says, Jim and SIE closing their mouths now like a nun's legs after the regulatory committees are looking more closely at their practices. You reap what you sow. Indeed, you do. Jose Rivera drops a very generous $10 super chat and says, love your work, Boom. And that's very kind of you to say, Jose. Thank you so much for the generosity, but the kind words are even more endearing. He goes on to say, and man, oh man, in games media coverage lately, just riddled with narrative bias, be well. And he's not wrong. The hit pieces, someone told me that once this deal is officially closed, the hit pieces are going to be flying left, right, and center. And if that in fact is the case, I will no longer be clicking on those sites. If I see that, and I see this as a 2014 kind of a scenario or 2013 scenario, I will narrow my usage of any of these sites, because I'm not going to support that kind of rhetoric. You dropped a very generous £2 super chat and says, when do you think Ubisoft Plus is coming to Xbox? The rumor is next month. I don't know when next month. I read a couple of places that are going based on a Twitter user who does leaks. That's his thing. He thinks it's mid-April. I mean, take it with a grain of salt. Until I hear something from someone that I know, I have no idea. But I would imagine we could look to April, and if it transpires, then the guy was right, and that's awesome. If it doesn't, maybe it's an announcement for E3. A big announcement. And a big Splinter Cell exclusive. Kind of a situation. I don't know. We'll see. Brett Bingham drops an additional $5 super chat and says, I told you a few weeks ago, Boom, SIE wants to control the narrative and make Microsoft look like the bad guy. Their fans are too loyal to call them out. And that is very true. We also have Drawn TJ drops an additional $2 super chat and says, don't forget the super chats. And I didn't, brother. Trust me, I get very disappointed with myself when I do. Highlander 001 drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, Newell was at the funeral for Satya's Nadal's son. Yes, he was. So what does that say about Gabe's relationship with Satya Nadal and Phil Spencer? I mean, he wouldn't be there unless he cared. I don't know how many high-profile people were there. It's a very sad event. I mean, if he didn't care, he wouldn't be there. And obviously, he wouldn't have made the statement about needing a contract. When he specifically asked about, listen, we don't need a contract. Microsoft says what they're going to do. They do what they do. So interesting point, though. Lady Foxfire. Hey, Lady Foxfire. Thanks so much for the generous $5 super chat. And thank you for supporting the channel as you always have. She says, hi, Boom, and everyone. Hope you're doing well. Just wanted to say RIP to the 3DS Wii U eShop that closes later today, and most physical games will go up. Yeah, of course they are. The minute the eShop closes, that's so Nintendo, man. I love them and I hate them at the same time. They just do such crappy things. I don't know. Very sad indeed. But listen, Fuzzy, let's get your hot take on this. Where do you personally feel this is going to go? Because, like I said, contracts or offers on contracts, they have an expiration date. And I would imagine that before the CMA, which we thought was going to be the one to oppose this deal, like to really, we've had numerous people come on the show and be like, nope, they don't believe them. They're gonna block this deal. They've never done this. They've never gone back on their words. And well, like I said to that, to several people that we've had on the show, this is an unusual situation. This is, where do you think they can stay quiet for much longer?
I think they'll stay quiet at least until the deal is sealed, kind of thing, like hold off on doing a showcase type of deal. I don't think they're going to talk about if or when they'll sign the contract, which I don't think they will, but I think what it comes down to, yesterday's price is not today's price. And I know Phil is a sharp businessman, but a dark side of him would be a little nice at this point, where it's like, oh yeah, that wholesale price that you were going to get for having it on PS Plus, maybe that goes up a few notches. The cost of acquisition, blah blah blah, type of thing. No, but I hope Phil doesn't try to put the screws too much to him, because remember, they own Bungie and he's a Destiny stan, so they could always turn the screws against him as far as that's concerned. But yeah, when it comes to this whole deal, as far as with contract that they may or may not sign type of deal, I think it winds up being one of those deals where they get the basic stuff that Phil had already talked about in public and everything. I don't think Microsoft wants to come across as the not so nice guy, considering they probably got a couple more deals in the back pocket, Sega and maybe a few others that they're looking at, hopefully. But I think it is one of those things where some of the language before of not having exclusive content, let's say, gets, I guess, a little stretched. And what I mean by that is, would it hurt if there was a Halo skin in Call of Duty or Halo weapons in Call of Duty, for just either special events or as like, Game Pass perk type things or something along those lines? I don't think that would be too much of a issue. Now, sure, of course, an exclusive map, unless the map is like one from like Gears of War or Halo or something like that. But that, I would like to see some of that type of stuff, but not to the extent where it's like it puts Microsoft as a whole in a bad light. But some of those things that are more, Xbox brand centric, they should totally do those, as far as like some of the stuff that they'll have that they kind of said they wouldn't, but they didn't really go into the specifics on things that are, brand centric. Because look at Sony, as far as making, Spider-Man exclusive to PlayStation platform on a third-party game with the Avengers. I mean, yeah, the Avengers didn't do so hot, but nonetheless, they've done plenty of stuff along those lines, as well as, special maps for a year and all that. I don't think Microsoft needs to do special maps for a year or like additional maps for a year access in comparison, just ones that are solely from the brand. Like, hey, you're a Xbox customer that has Halo and Gears. Here's a couple of maps that you could put in your rotation for some of the multiplayer matches and stuff like that. But outside of that, I think Sony just kind of quietly accepts Microsoft putting on a parody version of Call of Duty on their console and don't speak about it too much, because they'll just advertise for Xbox. So, hopefully they get things sorted on their end. But yeah, I think they take what Microsoft gives them. It's great that they don't necessarily need a contract over at Valve, but Sony doesn't technically need one either. But they brought it on themselves, raising such a big stink. So it's up to them now.
Well, I mean, again, the this is where the arrogance comes in, folks. This is where the arrogance factor comes in, and ultimately might hurt Sony in the long run. We're going to specifically go into that on Wednesday's Primetime Gaming, where we're going to have a special guest in Post Up and we're going to potentially talk about the ramifications of Sony's pandering, to regulators around the world. I mean, obviously, we do have information that was brought to our attention early Friday morning from Destin Legary on his YouTube channel, where it has been confirmed that Sony has been lobbying in Washington against the Activision Blizzard deal, and it seems like they got some attention. Unfortunately, it was not the attention that they wanted. And we're going to get into whether or not the information that is being provided by Sony to the FTC judge is going to expose their anti-consumer, anti-competitive behavior, and if in fact that is exposed, what happens next? We're gonna have a great conversation. Obviously, we're gonna be covering this at some point or another. We're gonna be talking about games because there's a lot to get into with the DLC coming for Forza. I cannot wait for that. That looks amazing. There's a lot of other things going on. Who's playing Resident Evil? I'm up to chapter 6. My God, it's so good. I can't stop. And that even moved me away from playing Halo. I hit level 76 and I started playing Resident, and the problem with trying to find time for games is real, folks. But let's get Crazy Lou's final opinion on this. Crazy Lou, what do you think happens next? Do you think Sony's silence is deafening? But more importantly, will it hurt them?
Will it hurt them? I mean, they're already hurt. It's this thing is hitting them hard. I mean, wow, CMA, they were hoping that CMA would have gone on their side, and they're still hoping that others would be on their side. But hey, nobody. It's amazing that nobody has been on their side about this deal. And only FTC. I mean, we're just seeing that the FTC is putting like a lot of things out there that I'm like, I'm still not getting why they're putting things out there. But yes, this deal is hurting them a lot. Their silence shows it, because really right now, I said it before, they're sitting down. They're probably knocking their knees because they don't know what the heck is going to happen, because the structure they had before, the structure, the power, the dominance, everything they had before just came crumbling down like nothing. It's just became a big disaster for them, because hey, they're the dominant ones. They're the ones, who had everything under their grasp. And having all that stuff under their grasp, and seeing this thing just go down the hill, because it's going to give Microsoft a playing field now, because they're going to be negotiating also with these third-party developers like they used to negotiate before. I mean, Sony used to grab these third-party developers to get their titles, and get their exclusive content on their console and all this stuff. Because why? They were number one, and they had their rules. And probably that's why, because I did mention this last week on XBI. I talked about this last week on if a company is dominant, on how they would treat the others that are below them. I mean, they probably have their own standard rules. They got their own, standard deals, and they don't give these developers room to negotiate. I'm just saying this is a probably, because they wrote an article 2 weeks ago that they came out of Anonymous, and they were talking about throwing a little bit of salt on how Sony deals things. So like I said, their structure, everything right now they used to have just went downhill, because once Microsoft gets on that same level playing field as they are, third-party developers will be able to negotiate on both sides and to get the better deal. And that's what Sony does not want. That's what's actually scared them, not losing number one, because I don't tell you something though. They got the way to compete. They got it. They have a way to compete. They have a way to get there, because, hey, remember when PlayStation came out back in the day, they did an awesome job. They got the marketing. They did pretty good stuff. I mean, I remember Crash Bandicoot going into the Nintendo and shouting at them. I mean, PlayStation did it really well. They got all that stuff handled down. And for Microsoft to take that spot, of course, it's going to be a couple years. But once that they get to that same level field, it's going to be interesting, because, hey, as consumers, we're going to get the best of it. That's the truth. Third-party developers are going to get the best of it. That's true. And hey, really, I want to see what's going to come next with Sony, because really, Sony right now knocking on their knees, thinking, where are we going to go? What are we going to do next? Really, it's been super, like I said, it's been like an amazing week for Microsoft. Won that, and really cannot wait to just see more what's going to happen.
Look, I'll say this from me personally, and if you're tired, folks, of hearing me talk about Banjo-Kazooie, I'm sorry, I'm a nerd. What can I tell you? I really appreciate family games. I love the death and mayhem and that you can do in something like a Call of Duty or a Titanfall or a Halo. That's great, but at some point, I kind of like something. I like sitting down to play a platformer because I'm old and I grew up on platformers, so I appreciate where they came from. For me personally, yes, the Call of Duty thing is a big deal, but I'm more interested on two fronts. The human factor being, and it should be the talking point. The people at Activision Blizzard King are no longer going to be under the dictatorship of Bobby Kotick. He's going to be removed, and someone like potentially a Sarah Bond could easily and efficiently run Activision as the CEO, or even like a Lulu Chang for that matter. She has incredible skills, talents, and she knows the business. I can't wait for a time where you hear that ideologies have changed in the way that they handle and treat their employees. That should be the first part that we discuss. For me, secondly, and the most exciting thing is all of the studios, 8 of which have made games in the past that are legendary IP, legendary games, are no longer going to be stuck working on just Call of Duty. Microsoft is probably going to keep Infinity Ward working on them. We know Infinity Ward and Treyarch are supposedly, the rumor is, working on 2 separate open world first-person space games based on like Mass Effect. Now that gets me excited because I'm a Mass Effect stan, and if you can deliver a new IP that gives you an open world, galaxy troping kind of a situation with these 2 studios, I'm excited, and you'll get that because Call of Duty is probably going to be. I don't know if it's going to be annual like it used to be. I don't think it should be. I think Call of Duty could live in Warzone and Warzone 2 and whatever else they want to do, and have the main lines come out every other year. You know what I'm saying? Allowing for other development of new IP. So we'll see what happens with that. Real quick before we get to outros, folks, we had over 600 people here, which is amazing. So thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully, if you're not already subscribed, because according to the stats, 18% of people who tune into these live shows are not subbed. And I would appreciate if you consider subscribing to the channel. That would be pretty dope. Dreadful Sean, who's been a channel member for 2 months, drops an outstanding, ridiculous $20 super chat and says, I think they should do console-specific skins maps and put it on the PlayStation version. Show PS fans what they're missing on the competitor's console. I mean, look, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be a Master Chief skin in Call of Duty. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be, because I would buy that. I would buy a Doom Guy skin for Call of Duty. Hell, I would even play Call of Duty online if they had that. We'll see what happens. Being that they're not, it has been confirmed by 2 major regulators in Europe, in the UK, and the EU, that there is not going to come to harm to the console industry over this. I guess all bets are off. We'll see. Highlander 001 drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, you missed my $10 super chat. Did I?
It's right below it. I re-edited it.
Oh, sorry about that, Highlander. Oh, my goodness. Sorry about that. He drops a very generous additional $10 super chat and says, this afternoon boom and panel, Jim Ryan should take the deal Microsoft has offered. You know that DM I sent you that the CMA is okay with Microsoft making Call of Duty a timed exclusive or leaving out features from PlayStation 5. That is absolutely correct. Highlander did drop that into my DM, where it does, in fact, the CMA does say that, where Microsoft could, in fact, invoke a timed exclusivity for Call of Duty. They won't. It's literally millions of dollars leaving on the table. It is going to come out. There's going to be parity. It is going to run just as good on PlayStation 5 as it's going to run on Xbox. This is not a Sony situation that we saw with like Callisto Protocol when they sent their 50 developers to help finish it. And I don't know, some features weren't available on Xbox. I wonder how that happened. So no, they're going to play nice. They're going to do things the right way. And with Phil Spencer in charge, there's not going to be any shenanigans. This isn't Jim Ryan is a villain. I'm sorry. He's like the guy twirling the mustache. That's Jim Ryan for you. Sorry. Phil Spencer is not that. He's a businessman and he's a good businessman, but he's not going to pull a Sony. They're going to allow for other players because the last thing that they want, and they actually have said this, is they don't want the reputation of gumming up the PlayStation version because it's not going to look good for PR. It's going to be terrible. So I don't think they're going to do that. But listen, let's get to the outros. Web Dave, you had an incredible show yesterday with the Gamers Council podcast. You had Hargeet Chani on.
Yep.
And for your own small show that literally only started a couple of weeks ago, you broke some records. You had over 50 people in the live chat. That is awesome. I was one of those people, and I was checking it out. Hargeet, his big cheese smile was on display as always. Talk about that. And more importantly, where could people subscribe to you on YouTube to help you get up to 1K?
Well, I just dropped the link in chat just now. So if you want to click on it or open up a tab and click on it, that way you don't go away from this show. But please subscribe. That would be great. We appreciate it so much. We're about 15 away from reaching 700, so that's cool. So
nice,
we're
dude.
inching toward. Yeah, exactly. Retri's doing a great job on the show as well. I really enjoy having him as a partner in this, and yeah, we've already had on the replay side, we've already had over 400 views from the show from last night. So people are watching it, even though you didn't watch it necessarily live. So that's cool. But yeah, so it's been really good, really fun. Also, the other show that I do, Outbreak Gamers, new episode dropped today. It's 108 Dragons TV.
Good dude.
He's quite a character, and it's all out there for you to see. So yeah, I think you'll enjoy that a lot. He's a great guy, great community member. And then next week's episode, next Monday, it's already in the can and recorded, is Luke Steele, and we get into it. It's awesome. Yes. It's a great episode. So he's a really fascinating cat too. So definitely tune in for that one. And he also made a point to make sure that I told you, Boom, that if you need him for stuff coming up, let him know. Send him out.
Yes, we're definitely gonna have him on. As a matter of fact, maybe I'll try and get him on with Post Up on Wednesday. I'll reach out to look guys. The prime time, it fits his schedule, but we'll definitely thank you so much for that. But listen, Dave, great interview today. 108 Dragons TV, good dude, very animated for sure. And I will get to the merch. Yes, I will get to the merch. I promise, folks. I've been sipping tears of joy from Xbox gamers all morning, and quite frankly, they're delicious. I'm going to be honest with you, and my tears were in there as well. Crazy Lou Gaming. Let's sell the brand of the Xbox International Podcast. That group of crazy dudes over there deliver a great show each and every week. You guys really, really do a good show. And how close are you to hitting 1K, sir? Because I think that we can hit that right now if you drop the link in there.
All right, let me drop the link real fast here. I just dropped it in. Where you can find me, at Twitter, Crazy Louis Gaming, where I do good morning videos and all sorts of that crazy stuff. Also here at noon, Xbox Lunch Break Special, hanging out with you guys. And I got something new going on, which is going to be on Tuesdays. And sometimes around the week, it's going to be called Playing with Crazy, where I'm going to be playing scary games. So everybody could jump in, enjoy watching me scared, and throw the headphones away, man. Because really, oh man, last week was insane. Oh my god. And also you can find, and last but not least, Xbox International Podcast, 7 p.m. ET Wednesdays with Silent Cypher, Sour Glow, and the Big Boom. And this week we're having an awesome guest. We're having the Ecstasies on the show.
Nice. Yep. Now, good stuff, brother. Definitely. Now, how close do you guys hit 1K?
Oh, we're right now in 917, so that means we're 83 away.
Hey, come on, folks. There's more than 83 people here. Crazy Lou is a great dude. They do great work over at the Xbox International Podcast. I really do. I wouldn't have these gentlemen on the show if they didn't bring an incredible amount of worth to the community, and that's the most important thing. They don't use clickbait. They don't use hate-driven content to get you to sub like some other people. Please subscribe to everyone. And speaking of subscribing, Fuzzy Belvedere, this is going to be a big week for you personally, because you are the #1 source for anything and everything in the racing genre. Talk about where people can subscribe to, so you hear your hot take thoughts on the new DLC dropping for Forza Horizon 5.
Oh, just want to say thank you for having me on, and for those that want to hear like all of my takes on anything racing or gaming related in general, some of my rambles, just follow me on Twitter at Fuzzy_Belvedere. Same thing on YouTube. Just search for Fuzzy_Belvedere. We'll definitely be diving into the DLC tomorrow. And then on Sunday, we'll be joining Web Dave and Retri on the Gamers Council to discuss some of my thoughts and whatever the chat wants to bring up as well on Forza Horizon and that new DLC. Definitely looking forward to that. But also looking forward to being here on Friday morning on the Breakfast with Boom. So everybody here, look forward to seeing you there 10 a.m. on Friday mornings. But
man, thank you so much. Looking forward to that. That's going to be, again, we're building the shows as we speak. I would imagine there's going to be more hot take information coming out this week, and we'll be delivering it each and every week. I'll be sitting down with great panels of great people, and I can't wait to let the week play out. This was a great way to start. And again, if you are new and you're finding the channel for the first time, please consider subscribing. But before we get everyone out of here, folks, and I thank everyone, as I always do, I want to drop a commercial that was made for me by Sean Labrie, the very talented artist, letting everyone know that we do have a merch store. We launched it a couple of weekends ago, and we've seen unbelievable outcry of support. So thank you so much for that. And for the remainder of the month, there is a 15% discount you can get off your entire order by using the code word BoomStick in all caps when you check out. And check this out, folks. And there you go, folks. There is the commercial, and the link is in the chat if you want to get your hands on the hotly designed merch from the Richter and Ben Kenobi and Sean Labrie of Twitter. You can go and check out all the designs at teespring.com. The link is right there. And again, 15% off of your total purchase by using the code BoomStick. I want to thank all the super chats that came in. Honestly, those super chats, outside of buying equipment and keeping us up to date with the new programs to allow for us to make these shows, we spent a significant amount of money on the artwork for the merch, as well as the look of the channel, which has changed. As you can see, thanks to Sean Labrie, we are making one unified look for Double Barrel Gaming. And I have something else coming in the form of new artwork for all of the thumbnails. I was back and forth all weekend with Sean, and we finally came in on the design. They look phenomenal. So you're going to see the thumbnails get an updated look as well. And I can't do any of that without the chat, without the help of super chats, as well as channel memberships. So Mrs. Boomstick and I want to say a big thank you for that. And of course, for Web Dave, for Crazy Lou Gaming, for Fuzzy Belvedere, this has been the new episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special. And of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that's important to me, folks. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you, you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special.